Alright, so today we're reacting to Milton Friedman versus Socialist. So far, you guys have been liking the Milton Friedman reactions. I know he's a huge libertarian. Like, he's almost like zero government kind of type of guy. This was one of the videos that some of you guys recommend me. So I'm gonna react to it. Let's see what's going on here.
And here at the Harper Library in the University of Chicago, our distinguished guests have their own ideas too. So let's join them now. It seemed to me he was saying that the golden age for America, when it was truly a land of opportunity, was the late 19th, early 20th century. No regulations, no permits, no red tape.
I would argue that the government played a decisive role in an enormous grant to the railroads in creating an American capitalist economy. And secondly, if you go back to that golden age, you find that the government constantly intervened in a rather characteristic way. It used troops against strikers. American labor history has been the most violent, bloody class struggle anywhere in the world. And the government, up until 1932, the law, the courts, the society, always sided with business, always sided against working people. Therefore, I would argue that both economically and in terms of repressing the attempts of people to assert their freedom, government prior to the rise of the welfare state in this country was more or less owned by business.
Milton Friedman.
Michael Harrington is seeing the hole in the barn door, and he's not looking at the barn door itself. The plain fact is, during the whole of that period, while government did intervene from time to time, and mostly to do harm, I agree with him that government intervention was, in the main, not a good thing, tariffs, for example. On the other hand, throughout that whole period, government spending, federal government spending, central government spending, never was more than 3% of the national income. It was trivial. The land grants to the railroads were a minor factor. I don't approve of them. I'm not saying they were a good thing, but they were a very minor factor. One has to have a sense of proportion, and that goes to the whole discussion. I am not an anarchist. I am not in favor of eliminating government.
Okay, so he's a libertarian, but he's not an anarchist. He recognized that the government does have a job on this. So he is on that side, because I know some libertarians, they are openly anarchists, no government, just between people kind of thing, right? So
I believe we need a government, but we need a government that sets a framework and rules within which individuals pursuing their own objectives can work together and cooperate together. And they work together and cooperate together not only in economic areas.
I want your... Michael Harrington?
I just think that two things. One, to view freedom positively, I think people over 65 years of age in the United States today are freer now because of Medicare. I do not think that the freedom to die from the lack of medicine was a very good thing. Secondly, related to industrialists, I think that one of the startling things about American history is that when Franklin Roosevelt was saving the system from itself, the main beneficiaries were screaming bloody murder at him for being a traitor to his class, when he was in fact the salvation of that class. And I think therefore, if you look at our history, I do think you find a tremendous myopia on the part of industrialists, and you find that the positive increments to our freedom, interestingly enough, have not come from the college graduates, but often from people with, not from the best people. It's come from working people, it's come from poor people, it's come from blacks and Hispanics and the like.
okay, here we go with the virtual signaling. Okay, so now understanding what the virtual signal is coming. He's talking more politics. See, he's not really looking at the economic factors. So let's see how Milton does.
Milton, would you reply, but then tell us why you took us to Hong Kong to prove something?
Sure. Unaccustomed as I am to agreeing with Michael Harrington, I will agree in part with what he's just said. I do not believe it's proper to put the situation in terms of industrialists versus government. On the contrary, one of the reasons why I am in favor of less government is because when you have more government, industrialists take it over. And the two together form a coalition against the ordinary worker and the ordinary consumer. I think business is a wonderful institution, provided it has to face competition in the marketplace, and it can get away with something.
Is it not crony capitalism? Where you have the private business, the private sector, and the government colliding just to get power. That's not capitalism. It sounds like capitalism, but when I think when the private sector is colluding with the government, it's not capitalism anymore, because I can be a failed business. But if I know a cousin of a brother of a cousin kind of thing, nepotism, they can give me like a nice contract, and I can use that contract just to get money from them. But that doesn't mean my business is good, right? So chronic capitalism is very different from capitalism in itself. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comment section below, or let me know if I'm right.
Except by producing a better product at a lower cost. And that's why I don't want government to step in and help the business community. Now, I want to go to your question about Medicare. There are many people who have benefited from Medicare, but you're not looking at the cost side. What has happened to the people who are paying for it? It isn't, we don't have a free good. It isn't coming from nowhere. And are they benefiting from it in a cost-effective way? Those are the questions. It's demagoguery, if you'll pardon me, Michael Harrington, to say the people who have Medicare are freer. Of course, in one dimension. But they themselves have been paying all their lives. And have they gotten a good bargain? At the moment they have. The young men, the young working people who are going into Social Security now, they're going to get a very raw deal indeed.
Milton, interest.
Oh, okay. Okay, just go with Mr. Freeman here. He just touched a couple points. Okay, so I don't know too much about Medicare. I have worked in the life insurance industry, and I know, and I'm supposed to say that, but a lot of people that have Social Security and Medicare, they're not the most resourceful. They don't have the most money. They don't, they are very limited in what they can get and what they can't get. I know with the Obamacare, I mean, it looks good, it sounds good, but some of these people's deductible were all through the roof. So that means that Obamacare didn't do anything. I do agree with Harrison. With some government spending has done some good, or it looks like it could be good. But then I agree with Milton saying that, you know, certainly some people have benefit from the Medicare. Now my question is, for those people that are paying for that program with the Medicare, are those people benefiting from those programs? Or we are paying to a system that is just gonna collapse. See, the problem with the government is the government is not held accountable for their failures, right? But the private competition or the private sector, if you fail, you go bankrupt. Now, the other thing that Milton was talking about, the crony capitalism, is when a private sector business, or let's call it business, go to the government and they collide, it becomes something else that is not capitalistic. It's just basically interfere with the marketplace, I would say. Very good interchange between both gentlemen. Uh, they're not screaming, they're not going crazy. One is not screaming F the right, the other one's not screaming F the left. Because I think back then it doesn't really matter. But now, of course, it's more separate. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And I'm going to really appreciate it.